Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Coaching for Coaches. I'm your host, Miles Grant, Coach Miles. I hope you're well. If you're watching live, tell me in the chat box. Let me know if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. Give me a yo so that I know that you're here. So tonight we're going to talk about life balance. This specifically is a bit of a Q&A episode. I had a question come in from one of our academy members. So our academy is for our coaches that have done our master coach training, done our accredited training, and want that mastermind, that they want to mentor. They recognize that they need a support system to help them to grow their coaching business and move forward. And that's what our academy is ultimately all about. And so tonight's episode is really coming from a question that I got from one of our academy members. They'll remain anonymous for this particular episode. However, on processing the conversation that we had around it, I thought it'd be a really useful Q&A because I get this life balance thing a lot. So what I'm going to do effectively in this episode, by the way, let me know if you're here. Welcome to the show. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you three kind of really practical ways, things that I do to ensure as best as I can balance. And then for you to kind of just, I guess, post in the chat insights, things that come up for you, learnings, etc. So we make this like a two-way conversation. Before I do, I had a different conversation with another client. The kind of coaching that I do now is more with my one-to-one clients is more life-based coaching, and historically I used to do a lot of business-based coaching with coaches, and now it's more life-based coaching. And there's a reason why I like the life-based stuff more than the business stuff, and it's because business is just one of arguably 12 life components. And to work on one is a bit like going to the gym and only working your biceps. Like if you went to the gym, imagine going to the gym for a whole year and only working your biceps. You'd have great biceps, but the rest of your body would be really, really off, out of balance. There'd be a lot of pain that would come into your body, potentially. I'm not a fitness expert, but I know enough about the physiology and the vertebrae and the skeletal system and the muscular network to know if you work one thing too much, it can be a bad thing. Too much of anything can be a bad thing, right? So I remember having a conversation with a client a few years ago who basically messaged me away from a session. And he said to me, I said, how are you doing? Because he said he said he wasn't feeling very good. And I said, how are you doing? And he said, well, I'm really overwhelmed. I feel really stressed. And I said, what do you feel stressed about? And he said, well, I signed up with you initially to have business coaching, but you've now, he said, you've rightly, may I add, he said, you've rightly made me realize that all this time I've been having business coaches, and you being one of them, you've made me realize that the reason why I've not felt fulfilled, Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. He said the reason he realized, he said, not a criticism, I'm grateful that you've helped me see the blind spot. He said, but you've made me realize that I've been working on my business, but I haven't been working on my marriage, haven't been giving the same attention to my parenting. He said, I've definitely not been giving the same attention to my health. And that's a problem. And he said, and I realize now that my business is like an 8 out of 10, but all the other areas are like 2, 3, 4. And he said, and that makes me feel pretty shit. And I said, well, before you feel any shitter, I'm a big believer that the first step to changing anything is awareness. I'm a big believer that we never have everything nailed. We're never going to be perfect. Brene Brown wrote a great book called The Gifts of Imperfection. Great book if you've not read it. And it really, the message in that is, it's good to be perfect. This the media, I think, pulls us into a false sense of we're meant to be a certain way, and if we're not a certain way, we won't be enough. We won't be validated. We won't get the significance. But one of my biggest kind of incantations over the past few years is I am enough. And it's amazing how important it is to tell yourself that, because no one else is going to tell you. And if you rely on other people to tell you, that can go away, right? Other people, you think that other people telling you that you're enough, that can go away. Like, one minute you're a child and you're amazing and you're significant and you're the one, and the next minute you're a teenager and you're a pain in their backside, right? I've been there. We've all been there, right? If you're honest, we've all been enough as a baby and now not enough as an adult. So I said to this client, I said, great that you have the awareness now that you've got to work on all those areas. And he said, yeah, I feel really stressed about it. And I said, well, I'm going to give you some tough love. That's life. I said, life is not meant to be fully figured out, nailed. It's not. I actually am going to start this video by saying first off the bat, like, I think that balance is a myth. I don't think that balance exists. I remember one of my mentors a couple of years ago, Nick James, talked about starting yoga. I know, one of the big things in yoga is balance. But then he went on to talk about how even if a yoga practitioner who's very good at standing on one leg, right, as I am now, you may not see me moving. You probably can, because I'm not very good at yoga. But you may not see me moving. But even if you can't see me moving right now, my right leg is wobbling like a motherfucker. So you might not see it to the naked eye, but I'm moving. So that presupposes that balance, even to yoga people, is a myth. Because even if that person has perfect balance, that yoga practitioner you see on YouTube, they will be moving. There'll be micro elements that will be moving. So before I get into, you're watching this video, so balance doesn't exist. What's the point of me watching this video? Well, I'm going to share with you 3 things that I think can help you to get into some form of balance without actually having balance, because I think it's technically a myth and bullshit. But here's 3 things that I do to try and, as best as I possibly can, have some form of order, have some form of feeling that I'm actually making progress in every area and not just one. Because really my client, what he was getting at was he felt like he was making progress in one area and not in the others. And after more coaching, he very quickly started to make progress. And even though he wasn't perfect in every area, because he was making progress in every area, he felt good. In fact, another great quote from Tony Robbins is progress. In fact, write this down. Progress equals happiness. I love that. Progress equals happiness. Not with the I love that bit on the end. So progress equals happiness. Tony then goes on to say, even if, and put in brackets, even if I'm not where I want to be yet, as long as I'm on the right track or road, I'm going to enjoy the process. I'm going to enjoy the journey. And he's right. You take a heavily overweight person, sat at home, feeling bad about their physical appearance. They have one workout in a gym environment that they feel comfortable in, sweating, great workout with a trainer. They feel great after. They go home. Is their body any different than it was an hour before? Not really. But they feel different because now they've made a decision and they've acted on that decision. So they feel better. So life isn't about hitting the goal. As cliche as it is, life is a journey. It's not a destination. Progress equals happiness. Yeah, progress equals. So let me share with you my 3 things. One in particular is kind of taken from a program that I did, which I will reference the name so that you can go and do it if you want to. So the first thing that I do to best as I possibly can have some form of balance in my life when building my coaching business is to work on what I call my life plan. So if you think about it, there's arguably 10 to 12 areas of our lives: business, finance, relationship, family, friends, spirituality, health and fitness, um, daily life, ideal life design, character, emotional health, so many different component parts, right? A couple of years ago, Sati and I were in a bit of a difficult moment in our marriage. Sage is 6 months old, and we were finding it difficult to juggle the balance of now being parents when before we were just a couple, right? It wasn't easy, and I'm sure anyone that's a parent can relate to that. We were struggling a bit. We went away in Portugal on holiday, first holiday from when the ended, but there was a window in time where we could get to Portugal for a holiday, and we went out there. We had a big blazing row while we were there, and we came back. And there's one thing that I've learned about me and Sati is we're always better on the back end of an argument. You know, we're always, something good always comes out of that. And I think it's because we have a really key question which we live by, which is what's great about this. And although it's not easy in the moment to see it, when you come out of it, we always go, what's great about this? And what was great about this particular argument in Portugal is we recognized that we were out of balance. So what we did is we went specifically to a platform, a personal development platform that we both like, called Mindvalley. Highly recommend Vishen Lakhiani's platform, Mindvalley. Great platform, by the way. And we did this program that was not actually a Mindvalley program, but it was a program that they were promoting. It was called Lifebook, and it was by John and Missy Butcher. John and Missy Butcher. Lifebook is the program. You can buy it for about $500, and it takes you through 12 life areas. John talks about how success in life is about being 12 category smart. So what that means is when you work on every aspect of your life, you're more likely to feel balanced because you know that you're doing the work on every area. So you don't have to be perfect, but if you're doing a little bit on your finances, a little bit on improving your character, a little bit on improving your spiritual part, a little bit on improving your emotional health, a little bit on improving your marriage, a little bit on improving your parenting. If you're working a little bit on each area, you'll feel like you're making progress. So the first thing I want to recommend is that you don't have to do the Lifebook program. You could just as simple as go onto Google, put in Wheel of Life, which is like an old school life coaching modality. Look at the areas and rate yourself in each area, right? Rate yourself in each area. Where would you rate your health? Where would you rate your finances? Just find a wheel that's got a scoring system on it, print it off, stick it on your fridge, rate yourself, and do that once a month. But key thing what you want to do is when you look at the wheel and you come up with a number, say your health is a 5, just go, well, what's one thing I could do this week to make it move up to a 6? I could eat more greens today. Like I could eat more vegetables this week. Great, do that. And put it somewhere where you're actually likely to then implement that action. Get yourself a coach, an accountability network, so that you're actually going to follow through. Then do that on every area. You don't have to do the Lifebook process. If you just did that, it would be a huge step forward. But for me, I mean, we don't do things by small. Me and Mrs. Grant, we spent probably about 6 weeks doing this Lifebook thing, and I've got this 50-page document now. And every morning I look through the 5-year synopsis of this thing. We're extreme in our house. You don't have to do the extreme, but having some form of life wheel that you can look at, as common sense as this is, right? It is common sense, but it isn't common practice. So highly recommend you do that. And the reason is what that will do is that will ensure that because here's the key thing I've learned about growing a coaching business is that success in your coaching business is really kind of, I'd say 80% of that comes down to your mindset and your psychology and your mental health and well-being. 20% is tactics. So if that's true, the things that are actually going to move the needle on your coaching business are more your gym routine, your meditation routine, how you're looking after yourself, how good and solid the relationships are with the people that you love. They're the things that are really going to move the needle more than the marketing activity that you can do. So highly recommend you do that. Next thing that I recommend, kind of slight variation of the Lifebook process, is what we call metrics. So if you think about it, an aeroplane that flies from London to New York is off target 95% of the flight. Forgive me, I probably got that percentage wrong, but it's about 90 to 95% of the time it's off target. It's like flying semi towards New York, but not fully because of the way the wind works and all that. Hey, I'm not into aviation. Please don't shoot me if I'm getting this completely wrong. But the point is, it's off target most of the time. However, so the question you want to ask then is, so how does it arrive at New York? Metrics. Now, what that means in plain world is there are obviously dials, hundreds of dials on the dashboard that the pilot and the co-pilot can see to tell them whether they're on the right path or not. Metrics for me are a really powerful way to ensure that your coaching business is on the right track and that you're in balance. Because if you think about it, if you had a target this year to have 20 coaching clients and you currently have 0, if you had a metric that every week still said 0, then are you on or off the right track? Well, it depends on when you expected to get the 20 clients by. However, if it continues to stay 0, then as painful as that may seem, at least it gives you evidence-backed data to tell you you're not on the right track. One of the things that we work on in our academy, and we work on this in our business as well, is metrics. So that it means that every single week we can check in, a bit like the Lifebook, a bit like the Life Wheel, we can check in and go, are we on target? Revenue, profit, number of clients enrolled in our programs, are we on track? And you can measure yourself in metrics in your personal life: body fat, weight, dress size, money in the bank account, number of clients. You can even go as extreme as talking to your spouse about how would you rate your relationship, your communication with each other this week, and allow them to speak and you give your version as well. And then go, what can we do to make it 1 point better, right? So measuring yourself on a weekly basis is a really good way to ensure that you are in some form of balance. Like I said at the beginning, I think that balance is a myth. I don't think balance really exists, but measuring yourself, what gets measured gets done. Measuring is a really good way of ensuring that you can see when those days and you feel like you're overwhelmed and you're not where you want to be. Measuring yourself gives you an indicator that you're on the right path or not. And if you're not, then you know that you need to do something to change it. But at least you find out on a weekly basis or a daily basis, and not 6 months down the line when you're like, how is it I'm 6 months down the line and I don't have any clients yet? At least if you're measuring it weekly, you can see that you need to change something. Last thing around balance. This one is a little bit woo-woo. So forgive me if you're not woo-woo, but I am. I'm as woo-woo as they come. This one is more around energy. So I believe that whether you're a male or a female growing a coaching business, you have masculine and feminine energy. I often hear people talk about trying to be positive. And I say, what's the fucking point of that? Because energy relies on positive and negative charge, right? You know, when I put batteries in Sage's car or her toy, obviously it won't work if the battery doesn't have a positive side and a negative side and the right way or the wrong way around, right? So we need polarity, we need energy, we need light, we need dark. We need to breathe in, we need to breathe out. We need sleep, we need to be awake, right? With Wayne Dyer says there's a time for everything. Time for winter, there's a time for summer, right? There's a time for everything. So for me, one of the key blind spots I see a lot of coaches have when it comes to balance is they're too much in one of their energy systems. So here's a pattern I see. I see a lot of people in their masculine growing a coaching business. This is especially women, because it isn't natural for a woman to be in her masculine energy. Because stereotypically, the way that nature made us, women were more feminine and men were more masculine, stereotypically. But to build a coaching business can be especially from a business growth point of view and all the marketing and the sales, that's quite a masculine energy. So if you're quite a feminine female and you spend a lot of time in your masculine, you may feel out of balance. So here's my solution to that. You want to think about scheduling activities that allow you to spend time of equal proportion in your feminine and your masculine energy. So for me, for every hour that I lift clunky weights in the gym, for every hour that I record content video like this, for every hour I'm delivering a seminar with a view to people enrolling in our program, for every hour that I do that, I do yoga, I do tapping, I meditate, have a conversation with God. I go to indoor soft play and play with Sage, talk about my feelings with my therapist. Yeah. So it's really important that as you embark on building a coaching business, if you want to have balance, you want to make sure that you're not too much in your masculine or feminine, because otherwise it's a bit like going back to the beginning of this session. I talked about the person in the gym that only works the biceps. There's a bodily imbalance there. And I know a lot of coaches who, and this is especially females, but not just females, men get this too, where you spend too much time in your masculine, business growth, business growth, business growth. And actually the thing that will really impact your business growth and give it exponential lift off is to spend more time in the other side of you, the feminine side. Yeah. So it's interesting. I remember hearing a story from Wayne Dyer talking about how in life sometimes we in our pursuit of our goals, we're pushing the door of opportunity. We're pushing, and it's not opening. And then we realize it's because that door that we're trying to open doesn't open that way. It opens inward. Where in your life right now are you pushing outwardly? But in actual fact, you'd be better just breathing in and opening inwardly. Hope you've enjoyed today's session. Hope it's been useful for you. Hope it's given you some insights. If you enjoyed it and you haven't yet participated in our Master Coach program, there should be a link somewhere under the video to find out more, or just write find out more. Also, write your biggest takeaway or insight from today's video. I would love to know. And if you're in our Master Coach program and you're now recognizing the importance of having a mentor, a coach, a mastermind community around you, then put Find Out More Academy in the chat and we can tell you more about it. That's it for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll